Welcome to Suri Cheating Story, where we share true stories of betrayal in love. Our channel brings heartfelt, real-life experiences from those who have endured the pain of infidelity. Whether you're facing challenges in your own relationship or seeking to better understand the complexities of love and trust, Suri Cheating Story is the place for you. Subscribe now to explore the emotional depths in the path to healing with us. I wrecked everything. Shattered it with my own hands, my own stupid, reckless choices. My name's Suri, and I'm the one who torched my family to ashes. All because I couldn't stop myself from crossing a line so dark, it still haunts me. It started with Mom's new boyfriend, Trent. He swaggered into our lives like some smug king, old chiseled jaw and cocky grins, and I hated him from the jump. Mom glowed around him, her eyes sparkling like she'd found some lost treasure. But to me, he was a thief, stealing the space Dad left behind when he died 3 years ago. Dad was my rock, my hero, the guy who'd hoist me onto his shoulders and make the world feel safe. Trenta. He was a cheap knockoff, a leech slurping up Mom's happiness while I choked on the fumes of my own grief. I'd catch him lounging on Dad's old recliner, sipping beers like he owned the place. And every time, my blood boiled. He'd toss me these lazy, "Hey kid" lines, acting like he could charm me into forgetting the gaping hole in our lives. But I saw through his bullshit. Mom didn't. She'd giggle at his dumb jokes, drape herself over him like some lovesick teenager, and I'd storm off, fists clenched, stomach twisting with rage. How could she move on so fast? How could she let this poser waltz in and erase Dad like he'd never existed? I'd lock myself in my room, blasting music to drown out their laughter, but it seeped through the walls anyway, taunting me. Then something shifted. One night I stumbled downstairs for water, and Trent was there, shirtless, sprawled on the couch like some lazy lion. He smirked, locking eyes with me, and I froze. His gaze wasn't casual. It was sharp, piercing, like he was peeling me apart. "Can't sleep." "Huh?" he drawled, voice low and thick. My throat tightened, but I didn't look away. I should have bolted, should have screamed at him to stop staring, but my feet glued themselves to the floor. Heat crept up my neck, and I hated myself for it. Hated him more. That was the first spark, the sick, twisted ember that'd eventually burn us all down. It wasn't just hate anymore. It morphed into something uglier, something I couldn't name. I'd catch myself watching him, his broad shoulders, the way his hands moved when he fixed his stupid motorcycle in the garage. I'd sneer about it to my best friend Lila, swearing he was a loser, but my voice would crack, betraying me. She'd raise an eyebrow, suspicious, and I'd snap at her to drop it. Deep down, I knew I was spiraling, teetering on the edge of something catastrophic. I didn't want Trent. I wanted to destroy him, to rip him out of Mom's life and prove he didn't belong. But that night on the couch, it planted a seed, a vicious, unstoppable weed that'd choke everything I loved, and I let it grow. I couldn't stop it. The pull didn't just tug. It clawed at me, fierce and savage, dragging me into an abyss I couldn't escape. Trent wasn't just a thorn in my side anymore. He'd morphed into this gnawing, relentless obsession that consumed every corner of my mind. It wasn't love, God, no. It wasn't even lust in the way people romanticize it. It was a raging, twisted need, a venomous urge to dismantle him piece by piece before he could sink his hooks deeper into Mom and obliterate what little we had left. I'd storm past the garage where he'd hunch over that stupid motorcycle, grease smeared across his thick forearms, tools clanking like some macho symphony. Every time a jolt ripped through me, electric, vile, searing my nerves. I'd hiss curses under my breath, branding him a creep, a lowlife, anything to bury the truth. My eyes lingered too damn long, drinking in the flex of his shoulders, the way his hands moved with that infuriating confidence. He'd catch me staring, and that smug, lopsided grin would stretch across his face, like he'd cracked some secret code I hadn't even deciphered myself. I wanted to smash that look off him, to claw it away with my nails or something darker, something I couldn't name. It festered, that hate, twisting into a beast I didn't recognize. I'd vent to Lila, my best friend, spitting venom about how Trent was a leech, a poser who'd never measure up to Dad. "He's a total joke," I'd snarl, pacing her room, but my voice would crack, shaky and thin, and she'd squint at me, suspicious. "You sure you're just pissed, Suri?" She'd prod and I'd snap. "Shut up, what else would it be?" But I knew, deep down in the pit of my gut, I knew I was spiraling, teetering on a razor's edge, one wrong step from a plunge that'd shred everything. I'd catch myself daydreaming, not sweet, fluffy fantasies, but jagged, fevered flashes of confronting him, of screaming in his face, of making him feel the weight of my fury. And then somewhere in those storms, the images shifted, his hands rough and calloused, brushing against me, his voice low and taunting, cutting through the haze. I'd shake it off, horrified, scrubbing my mind clean, but the thoughts clawed back, relentless. Then came that night, the one that snapped the leash. Mom was stuck late at some work dinner, leaving the house eerily still, the quiet pressing down like a weight I couldn't shake. I wandered downstairs, restless, the air thick with summer heat, and there he was, Trent sprawled in the kitchen, cracking open a beer with that lazy swagger. His shirt hung open, sweat gleaming on his chest, catching the dim light like some cheap, gritty movie scene. He didn't speak at first, just watched me, his gaze sharp and predatory, slicing through the space between us. I froze, my pulse hammering, every instinct screaming to bolt. But I didn't. "What's your deal, Suri?" he finally growled, his voice rough, scraping like gravel over my nerves. I fired back, venom dripping. "You're my deal, asshole. You don't belong here. You'll never be him." My words trembled, but they hit their mark, or so I thought. He stepped closer, looming, his shadow swallowing mine, and the air crackled, thick with something primal, something I couldn't outrun. I should have turned away, should have screamed, shoved him, done anything to break the spell. But I stood there rooted, my chest heaving, daring him to push me further. He did. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, not bruising, but firm, unyielding, and I didn't yank free. My breath snagged, sharp and jagged as his fingers seared into my skin, branding me with heat I couldn't ignore. "You're a mess, you know that," he taunted, eyes dark, bottomless, peeling me apart layer by layer. I wanted to rip into him, to hurl every ounce of hate I'd bottled up, but my body betrayed me, leaning in, trembling, craving the chaos he radiated. Then it exploded. His lips slammed into mine, a brutal, crashing wave of hate and hunger, and I didn't pull back. I dove in, kissing him with a ferocity that clawed at my soul. It wasn't tender or gentle. It was a battle, a punishment, a scream I'd buried too long. We stumbled, crashing against the counter, hands groping, breaths ragged, and I drowned in it. The taste of him, the weight of him, the sheer wrongness of it all. When it ended, I shoved him off, my chest heaving, my hands shaking like I'd just run a marathon through hell. He wiped his mouth, smirking, casual as if we'd shared a damn snack. "You're something else, kid," he drawled, voice dripping with that infuriating ease. I bolted, legs wobbly, tears scorching my cheeks as I fled to my room. I locked the door, collapsing against it, scrubbing my lips until they stung, but his taste lingered. Bitter, wrong, intoxicating. Guilt roared through me, a tidal wave of disgust and self-loathing, crashing over every inch of my being. I'd crossed it, the line I'd sworn I'd never touch, and there was no undoing it. I'd wanted to ruin him, to rip him out of Mom's life like a weed, but I'd torched myself instead. Worse, a sick, twisted thrill pulsed beneath the shame, a dark, jagged power I'd seized in that moment, a victory I hadn't meant to claim. I curled into a ball, sobbing, the weight of it crushing me. Mom would never forgive this. She'd look at me and see a traitor, a monster, and she'd be right. I'd lit the match, and now the whole damn house was primed to burn. I'd ignited the bomb, and now it was ticking. Louder, faster, shredding every second of peace I had left. The morning after I kissed Trent, no, after I threw myself into that abyss, dawn clawed through my blinds, harsh and accusing, spotlighting the wreckage I'd become. I stumbled to the mirror, staring at the stranger glaring back, puffy eyes rimmed red, lips still raw from scrubbing, hair a tangled mess of regret. I looked like I'd been dragged through hell, and I had, by my own damn hands. My stomach churned, sour and heavy, as flashes of last night stabbed me. Trent's smirk, his hands the way I'd melted into him like some desperate fool. I gagged, doubling over, clutching the sink as bile burned my throat. How could I face Mom? How could I look into her soft, trusting eyes and pretend I hadn't just stabbed her in the back? She was already up, humming in the kitchen, oblivious to the storm I'd unleashed. I crept downstairs, each step a hammer to my chest, and there she was. Mom, flipping pancakes, her hair tied back, a smile so bright it gutted me. "Morning, sweetie," she chirped, voice warm, slicing me open. I mumbled something incoherent, sinking into a chair, my hands trembling under the table. Then Trent sauntered in, bold as brass, tossing a casual, "Hey, babe," at Mom like nothing had happened. His eyes flicked to me, sharp and knowing, and my skin crawled. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just perched there, sipping coffee, a predator lounging in my house. I wanted to scream, to hurl the table at him, but my tongue glued itself to the roof of my mouth, choking me with silence. Mom prattled on about her day, oblivious, while I drowned in the static of my own guilt. Every laugh she shared with Trent twisted the knife deeper, carving out chunks of my sanity. I'd betrayed her, not just her trust, but the memory of Dad, the glue that had held us together through the dark years after he died. I'd see his face in my mind, those crinkly eyes, that booming laugh, and now it blurred with Trent's smug grin, mocking me. I bolted from the table, muttering about school, and fled to my room, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Guilt and rage wrestled inside me, tearing me apart. I'd wanted to punish Trent, to banish him, but I'd handed him the power instead, and he knew it. Days bled into a nightmare. Trent got bolder, brushing past me in the hall, his fingers grazing my arm, each touch a taunt, a dare. I'd flinch, snarling, "Don't touch me," but he'd just chuckle, low and dark, like he owned me now. I stopped sleeping, my nights haunted by replays of that kiss, his breath, my weakness, the sick thrill I couldn't shake. Lila noticed, cornering me at school. "What's eating you, Suri? You're a ghost." I snapped, "Nothing, back off." But she pressed, eyes narrowing. "Is it that creep Trent?" My heart lurched and I shoved past her, terrified she'd see the truth carved into my face. I couldn't tell her, couldn't tell anyone. The shame festered, a poison seeping into every crack of my life. Then it happened, the detonation I dreaded. Mom caught us. Not the kiss, thank God, but something worse. I'd been dodging Trent, keeping my distance, but one night he cornered me in the garage. "You gonna keep running?" "Sorry," he sneered, stepping too close, his breath hot on my neck. I shoved him, hard, my voice cracking. "Stay away from me." He grabbed my arm, pulling me in, and that's when Mom walked in. Door swinging open, her gasp slicing the air. She froze, eyes darting between us, confusion morphing into horror. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, voice trembling. Trent stepped back, hands up, all innocence, while I stood there, mute, my world crumbling. "Suri," she pressed, softer, pleading, but I couldn't speak, couldn't confess the ugliness I'd unleashed. She dragged me inside, slamming the door on Trent's excuses. "Talk to me," she yelled, tears brimming, her face a mask of betrayal. I broke sobbing, the words spilling out like vomit. "I kissed him, Mom. I didn't mean. It just happened." Her hand flew to her mouth, a strangled cry escaping as she staggered back. "You what?" she whispered, eyes wide, shattered. I reached for her, desperate, but she recoiled, shaking her head. "How could you? Suri, how could you do this to me?" Her voice cracked, raw and jagged, cutting me deeper than any blade. I tried to explain. My hate, my pain, my stupid plan, but it sounded hollow, pathetic. She didn't care. She saw a traitor, not her daughter. Trent played dumb when she confronted him, swearing it was nothing, that I'd come on to him, a lie so smooth it sickened me. Mom didn't buy it fully, but the damage was done. She kicked him out, her screams echoing as he grabbed his stuff and peeled out on that damn bike. But the real wreckage was us. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't speak. She'd sit in Dad's chair, staring at nothing, tears streaking her face while I hovered, helpless, drowning in the silence. I'd obliterated her happiness, her trust, all to spite a man who'd never mattered. Now she was broken, and I was the shard that had cut her deepest. The house turned cold, a tomb for the family we'd been, and I realized too late. I hadn't just lost Mom. I'd lost myself in the ashes of my own revenge. The fallout didn't just break us, it buried us alive. After Mom booted Trent out, the house turned into a mausoleum, silent and suffocating. Every creak a reminder of the wreckage I'd caused. She wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't even glance my way. She'd drift through the rooms like a ghost, her eyes hollow, her hands clutching Dad's old sweater, as if it could stitch her back together. I'd try to talk, my voice cracking with pleas. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." But she'd turn away, her silence sharper than any scream. I'd shattered her world, and now she couldn't stand the sight of me. I'd wanted Trent gone, wanted her free, but I'd ripped out her heart instead. And mine, it was a mangled mess, pulsing with guilt so thick I could taste it, bitter, metallic, choking me every damn day. Weeks crawled by, each one heavier than the last. I'd hide in my room, replaying that night in the kitchen, the garage. Every moment I'd let Trent sink his claws into me. His smirk haunted me, his voice slithering through my nightmares. "You're something else, kid," mocking my stupidity. I'd scrub my skin raw in the shower, trying to wash him off, but he lingered, a stain I couldn't erase. Then the nausea hit, sudden, brutal, doubling me over the toilet every morning. At first I blamed stress, the endless tears, the sleepless nights, but it wouldn't stop. My body felt foreign, sluggish, and a cold dread crept in, whispering truths I didn't want to hear. I bought the test with shaky hands, sneaking it past Mom's dead-eyed stare, and locked myself in the bathroom. 2 pink lines glared back at me, stark and merciless. Pregnant, with Trent's kid. The room spun, my knees buckled, and I sank to the floor, sobbing into my fists. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. I didn't tell Mom, not right away. How could I? She already saw me as a traitor. This would finish her. I hid it, layering hoodies over my tightening jeans, swallowing the sickness, pretending I wasn't carrying the spawn of the man who'd wrecked us. But secrets like that don't stay buried. One night I couldn't hide the vomiting anymore. She heard me, barged in, and found me hunched over the sink, pale and trembling. "Suri, what's wrong?" she snapped, her voice sharp with worry. The first real words she'd spoken in weeks. I couldn't lie. Not with her staring me down, her eyes boring into mine. "I'm pregnant," I choked out, tears streaming, my voice a broken whisper. She froze, her face draining of color, and for a moment I thought she'd collapse. "With who?" she rasped, though she knew. God, she knew. "Trent," I admitted, and the words sliced the air like a blade. Her scream shattered the silence, raw, guttural, a sound I'll never unhear. She lunged at me, not to hit, but to grab my shoulders, shaking me as tears flooded her face. "How could you let this happen? How could you be so stupid?" she wailed, her voice cracking with anguish. I sobbed back, "I didn't mean to, Mom, I swear." But she shoved me away, staggering to the wall, clutching her chest like I'd stabbed her again. "You've ruined us," she whispered, her eyes wild, broken. "You've ruined everything." She sank to the floor, curling into herself, and I stood there helpless, drowning in the wreckage of my choices. She was right. I'd destroyed us, not just with the kiss, but with this living proof of my betrayal growing inside me. I thought about ending it, pills, a clinic, anything to erase this nightmare, but I couldn't. Fear, shame, some twisted shred of hope pinned me in place. Mom stopped functioning after that night. She'd sit in Dad's chair for hours staring at nothing. Her once bright spirit snuffed out. I'd cook, clean, try to keep the house from collapsing around us, but it was futile. She'd flinch at my touch, her eyes accusing me every time they met mine. The pregnancy swelled, undeniable, a cruel clock ticking down to a future neither of us wanted. I'd catch her muttering to herself, "I can't do this," and I'd pretend not to hear, but it gutted me. She didn't just hate Trent anymore. She hated me, hated the thing inside me, hated the life we'd stumbled into. Trent found out, somehow, the bastard always sniffed out chaos. He showed up one rainy night, banging on the door, his voice slurring through the storm. "Suri, open up! I heard about the kid. Mom flew to the door, wild-eyed, and screamed at him to leave, her fists pounding his chest as he smirked, unfazed. It's mine, right? Let's talk about it, he drawled, and I hid upstairs, trembling, praying he'd vanish. She slammed the door, collapsing against it, sobbing, while I clutched my stomach, feeling the first faint kick, like a punch from fate itself. He kept coming back, leaving voicemails, threats laced with that smug charm. But Mom wouldn't let him near me. She protected me, even as she despised me, a paradox that broke my heart anew. The baby came early, unexpected, a girl, tiny, screaming, a mirror of my own guilt. I named her Lily, hoping for some shred of redemption, but holding her didn't fix anything. Mom wouldn't look at her, wouldn't touch her, just stared out the window. Lost in a grief I'd carved into her soul, I'd rock Lily at night, whispering apologies she'd never understand, tears soaking her blankets. I'd ruined Mom's life, and now I'd tethered this innocent kid to a father who'd never care, a mother who'd never heal. Social services hovered, whispers of neglect circling us, Mom's detachment, my breakdowns. But we clung to the house, a crumbling shell of what we'd been. One night I found Mom packing a bag, her movements slow, deliberate. I can't stay, Suri, she said, voice flat, eyes dead. I can't look at her and not see him. I begged, sobbing, please, Mom, don't leave me. But she shook her head, zipping the bag shut. You made your choice, she murmured and walked out into the dark, leaving me with Lily's cries echoing in the empty house. She didn't look back. I sank to the floor, clutching my daughter, the weight of her life crushing me. I'd wanted Trent gone, wanted Mom free, but I'd lost them both. Lost everything to a mistake that had bred this unbearable end. Alone, broken, tethered to a child I couldn't save, I stared into the void I'd created, knowing I'd never claw my way out. If you find this story interesting and want to see more touching, tense, but meaningful situations, don't forget to subscribe to our channel today. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Share this story with your friends and remember to like the video so we can stay motivated to bring you more great and meaningful content. Thank you for watching and supporting us.